Hi guys, I'm Scott Fontana, and I've been asked many a times to do a video on how to make my miters so tight when I do my crown molding. So today I'm just going to put together some quick thoughts and some quick tips on how I get great tight miters. Number one, you really want to have, and you got to have, a sharp blade. And you know, unfortunately the Diablo blades and whatnot at Home Depot and stuff, you can do better than that. Get yourself like an Amana blade, something solid. Those red blades, I use them myself, but they're not as good as a solid Amana blade, 92, something like that. The other thing is you want a real sharp pencil, okay? What's real important is a sharp pencil. I use a 2mm lead pencil, and you gotta get it so you got this real sharp tip, okay? And these pencils, they come with a sharpener. You just simply you stick the end in the end, and you spin it, and it sharpens your pencil for you. So you always have a nice sharp pencil. It's very important when cutting crown molding. You know, the pencil line that you make, you want it so small, very small. Pencil line is something I want to get into a whole nother discussion, but have a sharp blade, have a sharp pencil, and have a sharp mind, okay? And get a good pencil, get a good blade, okay? Next thing, I cut nested, all right? And a good thing for you to do before you get started is calibrate your saw at a 45, okay? A lot of guys, they'll put it at 0 and they calibrate the blade. Well, put it at 45 and make sure that you're square, okay? Because a lot of our cuts when we're doing miters, they're at a degree, they're at an angle. So calibrate it at an angle, I find that helps as well. I cut nested. I use the Crown Stop fence. Yes, I am the creator of the Crown Stop fence. It's a great product. You can get it at fastcap.com. It has these sliding stop bars in the face of the fence so I can adjust it to any size crown molding. Okay, crown molding, here's another thing. You know, guys, oh, I cut flat, you know, it's quicker. We all know it ain't quicker, but in the dents that are on your saw, they're made really for a 45-degree crown. And you're gonna see in this video that when you're doing cabinet grade crown, and that's what I do, I install kitchens mostly, so I'm always working with a cabinet grade crown, something really thick, you know, good solid maple. Okay, I work with oak, everything's painted, stained, okay, but good thick product. So all these tips are really important when we're doing this for kitchen work, okay? So cutting nested, I find it good, cutting bedded and nested, using the Crown Stop fence, you're gonna get less, you're cutting through less material. If I cut this molding on the flat, when I come down at an angle, if I'm cutting flat, that blade is cutting through all this material at once, okay? That's causing a little more blade deflection than if you're cutting nested. When you're cutting nested or bedded, you're only cutting through 5/8 of material at a time, 1/2 inch at a time. Sometimes, you know, every molding's different thickness. But when you're cutting like this nested, you're cutting through less material. It's gonna give you a less blade deflection, okay? Also, when you cut flat, a lot of times you get toe lift at the end. You won't get toe lift when you're cutting nested, okay? Also, guys, when you're cutting your crown, let me get this out of here. When you're cutting your crown, cut it slow. You know, this ain't a race. You know, you're not up there, run, run. You know, come down easy on your material, work your way through, okay? And also, work every miter, one miter at a time. But when you're cutting down, you're cutting slow. Take your time, and then don't mark your crown and try to cut right on the money, right on your mark. You don't want to do that either. You want to mark your crown, put it to your saw, and cut it with like a 1/16 left to go. Maybe a little less than that, but you know, get it chopped off first, then make your cut, so that again, you're going through less material, less work on the blade, okay? And now when you're installing your crown molding and your miters, here's another good tip. When you're putting it on there, let's say you're doing a return on a cabinet before you get to the front, or you're working the front, leave those end pieces loose. Like when you put the side piece on, put one nail in it, maybe two, but not out front. That way you can just work that crown a little bit. One different thing when I do a lot of kitchen installations, so my crown molding's always touching the ceiling. And the way it works with me is all my cabinets go in level, base cabinets, upper cabinets, then the soffit board goes in level. But then the crown theoretically follows the ceiling. You can't scribe your crown up to the ceiling. Even in new houses, sometimes the ceiling can be off 3/8 of an inch. There's no, you can't scribe off 3/8 of an inch on a crown. There's no room to do so. So basically, you put in your cabinets level, everything goes in level, and then at the end, your crown just follows the ceiling a little bit. And that's why you got to work your miters 46 degrees, different things, but you're really kind of following the ceiling. So we work one miter at a time, taking our time. Let's say you got an inside corner. You're working cabinet to cabinet. You got a refrigerator panel on one side, corner cabinet on the other. If you find your miter's not working for you, cut a small piece and find that angle that's working, because you're fighting the ceiling, let's say, okay? So if that miter's not great at 45 and you're starting to tweak it a little bit, find that miter and then cut it on a full piece. And then work the other miter and find that angle, the dangle, and save it on your saw, measure the full length, and finally make that last cut once you had already found that angle. Okay, that's another good tip for you. And let's see. Cabinets on the ceiling place. When you're nailing, guys, okay, when you're nailing on your crown, don't go bananas. This ain't roofing shingles, you know. Place each nail. Don't be at the end. Don't never be at the end of the crown. You always want to be in an inch. I got guys, I start training and I turn my back. They yell, fuck. What's the matter? I split it. You're at the end? Yeah. How many times I gotta tell you? Stay away from the end. Whether it's a scribe molding, a crown, you know, any kind of solid material, stay in a little bit, okay? And place each, stay away from the end. This is hardwood that I'm talking about usually. It's not pine. I work with all the hardwoods, cherry, maple, some poplar, oak, okay? And now here's another trick, okay? So let's say you're doing your crown molding and you're at the corner cabinet, okay? And you got that inside 22.5 degree miter you're messing with, and you're up at the top. Sometimes if you want to get that miter to go together, I will cut a stick. Let's say we've got 12-inch upper cabinets in the soffit and the crown are there. I will cut a stick so when it falls behind, it's pushing on that soffit board forward. It helps bring that joint together a little tighter. And then when you get to the crown and you get that inside miter, I'll make some backer blocks and I'll nail it to the back of the crown. So when I put the next piece of crown in, it's got something to fall onto and hold that position for you a little bit. Okay, and then sometimes you want to shim the ceiling. Okay, let's say you're doing it again, an inside miter. I don't cope my inside miters. Okay, when you're working with detail, when you're working with maple and detailed crown, you know, it's got edges like that. Very difficult to cope. And we're gluing our miters, and this is cabinetry, so there's really no reason to get into coping on your inside miters. Just set your saw, do an inside miter, glue it, make it great. It works all the time. Sometimes what I'll do, if I'm fussing with a miter, let's say I'm doing an inside miter and I'm fussing with it, I'll cut this away, you know, cut this off right here so that it's not affecting your intersection, okay? Sometimes that's messing with you. Get rid of that, okay? And let's see what else. Let's see. When you make your cut, when you make your length, okay, long is better than short. You can't be short, okay? So always work your way in. Start long if you're a newbie and you're working it. Start long and work in, because crown, it has to land perfectly at the end of the cabinet. It can't be long and it can't be short. Short's terrible. You know, if it's long, you can get away with it a little bit, but it really has to be right on the money. And again, that's why a fine pencil line is very important, okay? And then always glue your miters. Take your time, fill in your nail holes when you're done. I'll never leave a job. If I'm doing crown molding that day, my guy's right behind me filling my nail holes. I always make sure every miter looks great before I move on to the next miter. Okay, make sure you do that as well. And then the other tip is too, I see some guys, they put crown molding on upside down. There's a way to tell which way the crown is top and bottom. Okay, either they put a score into the molding, and that's going to identify the bottom where it goes against the cabinet, or you might notice the two surfaces are different sizes. This one's really big, this one's really little. The big is your nailer. That's what's going to go on the cabinet. Okay, and again, as you can see, all these different moldings I use, they all have a different spring angle. Okay, this one, look at this, is this spring angle, but it fits. I think maybe this one. It doesn't even fit it. What's the difference? This one goes here and fits that, but this one, that is where it is. See how much shorter that is? We'd have to lower our stop bar, drop it down. Same thing with these. Look at the different spring angles. Again, identify the cabinet spot. Look at this one's much higher. So again, I would raise this. Here, I had this one set for over here. Okay, so there's a ton of when you're working with cabinet crown, there's a ton of different spring angles, and you'll be on that chart all day long trying to figure out your miters if you're cutting on the flat. I know you guys, a lot of guys out there think cutting on the flat, it's the greatest and you're fast and all this shit, but it's really not true. You are obviously much faster cutting nested. You're gonna get just as accurate. One's not more accurate than the other, okay? Especially now with the crown stop fence. I think guys really liked cutting flat because the molding was flatted and tight against the fence, okay? They didn't like this nested thing because without the crown stop fence, you know, when you cut nested, that molding moves a whisker. It makes all the difference in the world. So with the crown stop fence, when it comes down, you tighten it up. Now you're solid against the fence. There is no movement. You're right on the money every time. Your miters will come out excellent. You know, cutting flat, like I say, the dents, they're only made for 45 degree. I think maybe one other angle as well, but you really, it's a lot of extra. Cut nested, cut it bedded, get a great pencil, sharp blade. I hope all these tips helped you guys out, and let me see some of your work. You can follow me on Crown Stop Fence on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I put out videos, I put out a lot of pictures, and I hope these tips helped you guys out if you're looking for any. Thank you.